On this episode of Lincoln to Local, we are joined by special guest, Representative Mike Dobrinski from Okeene, where he talks about renewable energy bills and what it means for Oklahoma, as well as his House Bill 2155. Thank you so much for being here, Representative, to talk to us about your House Bill 2155. Most of our Oklahoma Farm Bureau members probably know who you are, but for the ones that don't, could you just give us a little background on who you are and what district you represent in Oklahoma?
Certainly, Rihanna, it is my pleasure to be here. My name is Mike Dobrinski, House District 59 in northwest Oklahoma. I serve parts of Garfield, Kingfisher, Blaine, Dewey, and Woodward counties.
Thank you. So your current House Bill 2155 talks about the issue of renewable energy and just recently got passed on the House floor. Could you give us a little background on what exactly the bill is and why our Farm Bureau members should be aware of it?
Certainly. I'm glad to do that. This is something that came about a few months ago, probably about a year. Last session, I started in my role as utilities chairman. I am aware of a lot of electrical generation, transmission issues and things like that and try and keep up. I learned of the abundance, basically, of new renewable projects coming to our state, both wind, which we've had in western Oklahoma for decades, but the new interest in solar really has me concerned. And I've tried to share that with my House members that, an abundance of wind, 30 more days worth of sunshine above the average U.S. state, and our lower land values, our lower transmission costs here, even though we are congested, all of those things make Oklahoma a prime target for many of these development companies, these renewable project developers that are not based in Oklahoma. At best, they are national companies, but a lot of these companies are even international that are taking advantage of these new federal subsidies that have been in abundance in the last several years. Many of us don't feel like that's all that helpful, but it certainly has created a market opportunity for many companies, and Oklahoma is certainly a target for them.
So how exactly will this affect pre-existing or under construction facilities when it comes to obtaining a permit or following the guidelines of the bill?
Well, the process that was set up is through the Oklahoma Corporation Commission, which handles all energy, electrical issues and things like that. Now, any project of generation should go through the commission, and it uses a mechanism of permitting that is similar to what oil and gas has used for decades. So it's not like we're reinventing the wheel here, but it's not a restrictive process. It's just an opportunity for early identification and hopefully public notification so that neighboring landowners might have an earlier opportunity to become aware of it and how it's going to affect them. And then we're putting it on the commission basically to promulgate the rules and to set up the mechanism in place and to allow for them to give the permit, and the permit fee is going to be based on the size and scope, possibly the capacity, the generation capacity of that facility. And with a maximum fee at this time, we set of $40,000. Now, facilities that are already out there, they're going to be required to get a permit as well. They haven't had to up this point, but it will be available to them at no charge. And existing facilities that are out there now and have been historically that may be looking at either expanding their operation, upfitting newer, more capacity wind turbines, things like that, or adding battery backup, battery storage facilities on site, they are going to have to be permitted as well.
Great. So what specific issues did you see when it came to the inspiration of writing this bill? Was it issues that you have seen for a while in Oklahoma or just in recent years?
Well, no, it's recent. It is certainly recent. And we certainly know that the Corporation Commission has been very successful and fair in managing the oil and gas industry for many years in Oklahoma. Wind, we have allowed them out there. Pretty much the only permitting that's required of them now is basically through the FAA and in some cases the Department of Defense when we have military bases in the area and things like that, just so that the wind turbines do not conflict with their flight patterns, their training patterns. We have Vance, we have Tinker, we have Fort Sill and Altus, those facilities around that have had to get involved in basic several projects throughout the recent years to make sure that these projects do not interfere with their training mission and do anything to endanger the longevity of those projects and those facilities, obviously, which are very, very instrumental in our state.
Great. So how exactly will House Bill 2155 affect Oklahoma and Oklahomans, and what can they expect in recent years?
Well, as far as Oklahomans go, our average constituents, taxpayers, those folks, this will be an opportunity for earlier notification of a project in their area. A lot of these things take many years, and I've heard as few as 5 and maybe up to 10 years for companies to look at particular areas, and they do some studies, but they do it very, very quietly. They will get some options in place with some landowners in the event that they are successful at developing a site. They will have considerable lease income, but those farmers a lot of times will sign agreements that may have non-disclosures and do not give them an opportunity to visit with their neighbors about it. And sadly, a lot of farmers and older producers and things that have been around a long time and think that they're pretty sharp and they know what's in their long-term best interest. Some of these contracts are 30, 40, 60 pages long, and if they don't get legal help at maneuvering through those, aren't getting the best deal that they can. And again, a lot of times they may or may not be communicating with their neighbors or even family members in a lot of cases before they're deep into a contract that maybe isn't best for everyone.
So I know we've been talking about House Bill 2155, but are there any bills that you are currently writing that would interest our Farm Bureau members and that they might want to be aware of?
I am involved in a couple of issues. Again, with these new facilities coming to the state, there have been very limited guidelines around wind and zero regarding either solar or battery backup storage systems. So we have heard from neighbors that are not excited about having them in their backyard or across the road, next door, whatever. So, balancing that landowner issue, property rights issue, obviously that's important to all of us. It's important to conservatives. It's important to Farm Bureau and the other ag associations and things out there. So we have to be very careful of anything that we do there. We want to offer a reasonable, we'll call them setbacks, obviously, but put some reasonable guidelines around these facilities so that not only are participating landowners' rights observed and protected, but the neighbor that isn't participating but is going to have to be next door and look at these facilities. We just want to give them some sort of protection that these aren't going to be right up next to their house. And I have been involved in those solar setbacks. 2156 has passed both the policy committee and the oversight committee unanimously, and will be scheduled for the floor soon. But I have never intended to be punitive or restrictive, and certainly not a moratorium, because we do need additional energy, and these projects are opportunities for some of those producers who are getting older and want to set up some generational income for their families that aren't coming back and taking over the operation, or in some cases can pick up substantial income from that lets them expand their operation. So there's a lot of ways to look at this, and we don't want to step on anybody's rights, but we want to try and protect everyone as much as we can. And when you look at other issues that are certainly going to be important to our ag constituents, I am involved in an agrivoltaics bill, which is challenging for me to say, but I'm getting better at it. It is an opportunity, basically is specific with our solar facilities to promote some sort of agriculture production along with these new solar arrays that are pretty much going to cover the ground. Again, the difference between wind and solar, you might have 2 or 3 turbines on a quarter of land or something like that. But if you sign up with a solar facility, they may very well cover your facility and eliminate much of the opportunity to either graze it. Certainly, you don't have any crop opportunities there as well. But agrivoltaics is an opportunity to learn and promote some sort of production, some sort of ag benefit along with the solar generation facility. So that, again, is a new area, and I've had some constituents reaching out to me with interest there and offering some resources and things like that. So that's one thing that we're trying to do. I've been involved in my time in the legislature with the Terry Peach Restoration Project in the North Canadian Watershed, where we have been fighting the invasive red cedar species for a couple of years, at least in a trial study. We were trying to take that statewide and give it the attention and the funding that it deserves long term. We have added a couple more invasive woody species that are prolific in different parts of our state. And when we talk about those, it's water. Water is the big issue. Out in my area, the red cedar certainly provides an opportunity for additional wildfire risk and an ongoing drought. Every time we turn around, it is a challenge there. So OSU has done studies going back 30 years ago and predicted very accurately, I can say, what would happen if we didn't do anything. And that's where we find ourselves in Oklahoma right now. It's not unique to Oklahoma. It's pretty much a plains issue that, it's taking over our productive ground, our acreages. We can't graze. It's affecting wildlife, and it is certainly affecting our limited resources of water we have. So I'm looking forward to kind of corralling the troops a little bit and getting the governor on board with how important that is for Oklahoma.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Representative, and thank you so much for giving us your time and knowledge. I
appreciate the opportunity, and I greatly value Farm Bureau's involvement across the street. You guys are a big help. Thank you.